So first of all, what is framework and why we need framework? Or any design pattern or approach, right? So which we are following, like page object model or anything, right? So why we need that approach, and with that approach we need to design framework. Any idea you have? Or what issues we were facing without framework, or we may face without framework? What
Uh,
issues?
so without without framework, code was redundant. We were not reusing the same line of code, so there was redundancy in the code. So size of the file increases due to that.
Okay.
To reduce the size of the file, or to reduce the redundancy, framework is needed for reusability of code.
Okay, good. Okay, next. Satara, any idea you have about like why we need framework, or what problem we may see if we don't use framework?
Maybe framework helps in proper structure or a pattern that we can follow. Somewhat.
Yeah, right. So basically, that's a good attempt, guys. So basically, you understand in such a way that let's say in your team you are having some 5 to 10 members who are working on automating some application, right? And you don't have any practice or any framework in place currently. Now you are giving the liberty to everyone that you design your test cases in your own way, right? So they are designing. Each of them is using different approach to design the framework, design the test cases, right? So once those test cases are designed, now when individual, if they are executing at individual level, it is fine. They can execute it and they can produce the result. But when you need to do end-to-end, automation execution, that time it would be a problem. Like since everyone has designed the test cases in their own way, how to uh, combine them, and how to run those cases and those test cases in a single run. So it is actually a problem, right? So you need to have something which is very much standard or very much common, which everyone can follow, right? And they can write their own test cases in that framework, or the kind of practice you say, right? So everyone has to follow that. So one problem you can see, like during the test case execution for end-to-end part, is will be a problem if everyone is following their own way of writing the test case or automating the test case. Now the second problem could be related to reporting also. So since everyone will be having its own report, right, when they are creating their own test cases, now when you need to produce a report for end-to-end application, that time also it would be a problem. So reporting is also a problem when everyone is following a different approach. Next is your what do you say, the hard coding of the value. So let's say you are trying to create test cases for different set of data, test data, right? And some of them are using some hard coded values, some of them are using they are passing the value from the external resource or something, right? So that time also it is a big problem. Like eventually when you are running that all the test cases in one go, then what all would be useful? So hard coded values, or a kind of parameterized from external source, that is also a problem when you don't have any standard approach in place. Now the next problem here could be like you remember we have discussed about POM.xml file in Maven, right? So let's say everyone is using their its own structure, right, of creating a test cases. Now they must be using some different tool versions, right? So let's say I am using Selenium 3, you are using Selenium 4, and Satara is using Selenium. In Selenium 4 also she is using some different version, right? So the versioning would be different for each of you, each of us, right? Because the versioning is different, there are some functions of which are deprecated in some of the version, which are not available in other versions, right? So there might be a discrepancy there. So likewise in TestNG or other tools, either they are integrating directly in your project, or they are using through POM.xml, there might be a discrepancy there. So this may create a big problem when you are trying to execute those cases in the long run, or when you are trying to execute those cases end to end in end-to-end flow. So having different version is also a problem. When everyone is following its individual approach. Right. Next could be your what could be your duplicacy also. There could be a duplicacy also. So since there is no framework available, then even you are also writing the test, test designing for the same feature. I am also designing the same feature, right? So duplicacy will be there. Duplicacy or no reusability of already existing feature. Then there might be issue of maintenance also, right? So since everyone is designing the framework in, design the test case in its own way, then maintenance of the end-to-end test cases would be difficult, right? So to sort out all these problems, I have listed only a couple of them, but there are many other also. To sort out all these problems, we need a kind of a standard approach, or I would say a concept or practice which everyone can follow in the team, right? So framework is nothing but it's a set of assumption or concept and practice that needs to be followed. Right. So I will have some some basic structure already defined, and I will add all the common jars, and as in I will add all the jars in my common place, that is your pom.xml, and I will ask all of them to clone that project in their machine using Git, right? So they all would be using the same tools only. So there would not be any deviation in like you are using some different version, I am using some different version, likewise. So there would not be any deviation. So that's the basic thing about the pom.xml which we require, right? So framework can solve all our listed problems here, right? So all the test cases would be designed using TestNG, and they would be using proper annotations and all, right? So you can allocate the task to your different team members in such a way that I am working only on the individual component, right? So there is no duplicacy, or if there are already existing libraries there, I can reuse them, right? So basically framework will solve all the problems. Until here, clear, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So now moving on to the what we will be discussing in framework. So we will be discussing about test-driven development, right? So that would be our kind of page object model design pattern with the help of data-driven approach plus your TestNG, right? So we will be using these all already existing patterns and approach to create our end-to-end framework. And we will be using a e-commerce application, and the flow of the e-commerce application, right? So the basic purpose of using the e-commerce application is to place your order after your payment is done, right? So if your order is successfully placed in your e-commerce application, then your end-to-end test case is done, right? Starting from registering a customer to placing an order, right? So let me go to the paint now, and then I will tell you how do we will be designing the framework. Okay, so since I told you that we will be using page object model, so the basic purpose of using page object model is we will have separate page classes for each of the web page, right? So let me take a simple flow here. So let's say I am having let's say 4 or 5 pages here. So one page is for my login page, second is your home page, third is your add to cart page or search page, Fourth is your add to cart page. Then fifth is your payment page, and then you are successfully placing the order. And likewise, you are having one registration page also. So let's say I am having some 6-7 pages in my web application. So there will be many more, right? So when you will be like working on the real applications, but for the example I am taking, let's say I'm having 6-7 pages in my end-to-end application, right? So first page being my home page. So let me give the name here, home page, the login page, login page. Then this is your home page. This is your search product page, search page. Then this is your add to cart. Then this is your, let's say your payment page. This is your order placed page. Okay, so likewise I'm having 6-7 pages, and this is your 1 second registration page, right? So customer registration. Okay, now in page object model, what I will do for each of the web page of that application, I will create a page class, right? And that page class will have what? It will have the web objects, right? So web objects as in I will be locating those elements, right? So by using by class, right? So using by, I will be locating all the elements of this page, login page, right? So I will be writing my object repository here. I will be creating my object repository here, or OR. So object repository, object repo. And I will be defining all the action methods for that class, action methods. So all the action. So for an example, on login page, you would see some, object repositories could be what all web objects I would find there, like my input box for email ID, for input box for password, then clicking on the sign in button, like the sign in button or the forgot password link, like there are some footer links available, or there are some logo or images. There are some images also. So all those would be my object repository. It would become my object repository. And all those action methods, like clicking on the submit button, right? Or clicking on the forgot password link, or clicking on some other, other links which are available on the login page, right? So that would become my action methods, or features, I would say. So action method on features. And this would be my Java class. So login page dot Java class. So that will be my Java class. Okay. Similarly, for homepage also, I would be creating the object repository and then action methods. Right. So homepage also, there would be object repository which are actually which will have all the objects of that web page, of that home page, and the action methods which are there on my home page, right? Search page also will have the same thing, object repository, action method, add to cart, payment page, order place, and customer registration page will also have the object repository. So there would be a separate Java class for each of the page, right? So that would be my first layer. Right? So if I talk about this would be my first layer. Okay, that layer I call as page layer. So this will be my first layer and page layer 1. Okay. Now for each web page, I will be creating a separate Java class, separate test class, as in, right? So as we have understood in the page object model, right? So for each page, I would be creating a separate test class, right? So for login page, I would be creating login page dot test dot Java. For home page, I would be creating home page test dot Java. For search page, I will be creating search page test dot Java, add to cart page dot Java, test dot Java, payment page test dot Java, order place, customer registration page or test dot Java, right? So here, these all also will be my Java classes only. So this would be login page test.java. And for home page, it would be like homepage test.java. And here what I will be doing, I will be, creating the test cases. Right? So whatever the test cases which are related to login page, I would create here. Whatever the test cases which are related to home page, I would create here. Right? So this would become my second layer eventually. So layer as in second package. Right? So this would become my second package. One second. Okay, so this would become my second page, and this I call as test layer. Okay, so package, you know how I am creating the package, and within that package I am creating the separate Java classes, right? So test layer, and this would be my second component. And in this test.java, I would be using TestNG annotations to create your test cases, right? So I mean, we can create our test cases in a single class using @test annotation. So TestNG annotations I would be using here. Okay. Now I have not yet initialized my web driver anywhere. So for that, what I will do, I will create a third layer, which would be my test base. Right, so test base or base class, I would say. So that would be my third layer. And here, what I would do, I would create a test base .java class, and what it will do, it will actually, it would be a parent class. It would be a parent class, and all the classes in your framework would actually inherit this class. So be it this, this also would inherit this class, this also would inherit this class. So I don't have to initialize WebDriver everywhere now. Likewise, it would inherit, this parent class would be inherited by all the classes of the framework. So all the classes here is inheriting this, and this also, all this test layer also would be inheriting this. Yeah. Okay, likewise, all the classes would inherit this test base.java. Now what I will do here, I will first instantiate your browser. So WebDriver equal to new Chrome driver. Likewise, I can driver equal to new Chrome driver. This I will write here in my common class. Next, there could be, I can maximize browser. This is also common, maximize. Then implicitly wait, or page load timeout. Right, so these all common code, which is actually common for all of your entire framework, right? So all those I would create here. So this would become my third package. Okay, so this would be my third package, and I would name here as like the third package is base class, base package. Let's say base package 3. Okay, and next would be your config.properties. So we do have a .properties file also in your framework, right? So properties file is basically useful for keeping your environment variables, right? So where do you keep your environment variables? Basically, we don't hard code anything in our framework. So we need to create a separate package for keeping your environment variables, right? So that would be your next package. So config.properties. config package, you would say, and that you will have this config.properties file. So that's a common, simple file, and in that you can keep your browser info, like for which browser you want to execute. You can keep your URL, right? So for which URL you want to run, you can keep your username and passwords, and all those, which are kind of data, right? So whatever the data we have would be kept in your config.properties file, right? And that would be a part of your config package, right? So eventually what will happen, that property file you will have to read in test base class here. And once you read that once you read those values in the test base class, it will come automatically here. And from here, all the classes would eventually inherit that, right? So like it is a kind of integration we will be doing with config.properties file. And this would become your fourth layer. Okay, so this would become my fourth layer, layer 4. Okay. Until here it is clear, guys? Disha, Sitara?
Yes, Nitin.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, to keep your test data or test resources, I will have to create a separate layer, right? So to keep your test data or test resources, and this would be mostly in your XLS file, right? So it's not like that we will be keeping all your test data only in single, I mean, you would need only one sheet of test data. There might be a couple of more scenarios wherein you need to require a test data to be populated for your test cases. So here I would keep all the resources, right? So this would be my resource folder, resource package. So resource package, next would be your resource package, right? And here what you will do, you will keep your test data. Or what else you will keep? You will keep all your browser drivers here. We don't keep anything outside the package, right? So you will keep all those browser drivers here, right? So test data in the form of XLS file. XLS file. Okay. This would be your fifth package or fifth layer. Fifth layer. Okay. Next would be your utility package, wherein you will write all your utilities file, which are actually common or common libraries which are needed for your framework, right? So here what you can create the listener classes, right, which would be mostly useful by all the test cases. Listener class, util package. So here you would create your listener classes which will listen to your test, or which will listen to your a report, or I mean a retry logic on field test cases. This also you can write. You can create your WebDriver wait or explicit wait, or capture a screenshot for failure cases, or capture a screenshot is again, or your any of the additional library you would need, right? So common utilities or something, common utility or common generic functions, util or generic functions. With this you will write here generic functions. Okay, this would be your sixth package overall. Sixth package. Now next would be your reporting part, right? So reporting, where all you would keep your report, right? So for that also you will have to create a separate package, right? And that would be your seventh component or seventh package. So reporting package. So for reporting, either you use TestNG report, or your HTML report, or XML report, or anything, or you can use your any third party. If you are a third party tool, if you are integrating that with your framework like extend report or any other report, that also you can integrate and keep it here. So this would give you a test report, right? Pass, fail, or etc. So reporting package, this would be your seventh package, right? So likewise, I would be having 6-7 components in my end-to-end framework. So this would be your basic, more not of a basic short, but it would be a kind of a medium level of framework, right? So as of now, you can think of this. So all these classes would actually inherit this parent class. Okay. Is it clear, Disha, Satara, until here?
Yes.
Now on
Yeah.
the technology part, what all we will be using? We will be using Core Java as a programming language. We will be using Selenium WebDriver as a automation tool. Then we will be using TestNG for your designing your test cases. Then we will be using Maven for build automation tool for running your test cases or something. So we will get the pom.xml file, and we will have to we will have to prepare the list of dependencies which we need to add in your pom.xml file. Prepare dependencies. Okay. Then we will be using Apache POI API to read your data from Excel file. Apache POI API, right? So we have discussed about that. We will be using extent report or TestNG report if required, extent report or TestNG report for reporting purpose. Then we will be using Jenkins for your continuous integration. Then we will be using Git repository for keeping your code on the GitHub. Then we will be using browsers. Yeah, so browsers, anyways, we will be like for parallel testing, we will be using TestNG XML of browser size, different browsers, so Firefox, Chrome, Edge, and all, right? And we will be using Windows, Linux, not Linux, Windows or Mac in real time, right? So Windows or Mac. For parallel testing, we might use Selenium Grid also. And if you are looking to run your test cases on your cloud, then you might need to use some virtual machines or cloud VMs or browser stack or source lab, etc. Right? So if you are looking to run your test cases on the clouds, source labs, right? And all the concepts from Java we will be using here, like OOPS concepts, collection, constructor, etc. Right? String. All the concepts from Java we will be using here. So this would be largely our tools which we will be using for your end-to-end automation, right? So this page object model is also called a page chaining model, because you are actually when you are uh, entering the username or password in your login page, you are actually moving to the home page, right? So your login page is actually connected to the home page. And if you are searching on anything on the home page, you are actually moving to the search page and then add to cart page. So all pages are actually internally linked to each other, right? So there are some links which are actually linking those pages to each other, or there are some functionality, right? So this is also called a page chaining model. Likewise, you might have some other links which are actually navigating to one or other other page, right? So this is also called your page chaining model, apart from page object model. And here what we have used, page object model plus data driven approach plus your TestNG. One second. So Okay, let it be here like this. This is your config package, and this is your TestNG. Fine. So this is your page object model plus data driven. So this is also called a hybrid approach. Also called a hybrid approach. Okay. So this would essentially be your kind of framework which we will be using. So you can just take the picture of this, guys, and then possibly you can just, whenever you're going for any interview, you can just have a look at that.